They'd been living for over a decade in Holland, Europe's most tolerant nation and a haven for religious dissenters.
I didn't know that.
Free from
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mikey Reacts. Today we're reacting to, it's actually a follow-on from a previous video where I reacted to the original story of Thanksgiving. And today I found an interesting source. I don't know if you guys know PRAGER University. I've heard of it before, but I'm not too sure what PRAGER University really is or where it is. I'm not too sure if it's an actual university. I'm sorry for my ignorance on that one. Leave it down in the comments below. Let me know if it is and what it's about. We're reacting to what the truth about the first giving. What's the real truth about the first Thanksgiving by PRAGER U. So we're gonna find out. I don't know if it'll be a different perspective or it'll be reaffirming as to what I watched before, but it's one more sort of, one more little notch on my belt in terms of knowledge about the United States and Thanksgiving, which is of course, aside from Christmas or maybe combined with Christmas, the most important holiday in the United States. And it's really important. It's a very huge part of American culture. It's something that we don't celebrate, of course, around the world, especially in Europe. We don't do that because it's an American story. So I want to learn more about it so I can really assimilate into American culture and hit the ground running once I get to the United States. So let's get to this. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video and leave comments down below if you think I'm wrong in my opinions, or if you want to give me any feedback or absolutely any recommendations for different things to react to watch regarding the first Thanksgiving. And don't forget guys, there are links down below in the description for my Instagram, Twitter and Patreon, which will talk about more important issues like politics and history in greater detail. And there are 3 tiers, and the cheapest you can do is $5 per month, and that gives you lots of benefits. So go ahead and check that out in the description. Let's get to this.
food, football, and oppression. That's what Thanksgiving has come to mean to many Americans.
Okay.
Back in 2007, Seattle public school officials made national news by describing the holiday as a time of mourning and a bitter reminder of 500 years of betrayal. This new narrative describes the Pilgrims as arrogant.
I mean, I've watched the original story of Thanksgiving, and if that was accurate, then obviously that's completely wrong. I'm assuming these people can disagree with it. Let's have a look.
Oppressors who fled persecution only to become persecutors themselves, depriving Native Americans of their land and their lives. But this is wrong on every count.
Okay,
First of all, the Pilgrims didn't cross the ocean to...
So I thought so. And I know what he's about to say. The Pilgrims didn't cross the ocean to colonize and to conquer. No, they were running away from persecution themselves, from religious persecution under Henry VIII, I believe.
Or even England. They'd been living for over a decade in Holland, Europe's most tolerant nation and a haven for religious dissenters.
I didn't know that.
Free from interference by the Church of England, they feared seduction, not persecution, worrying that their children would be corrupted by the materialistic Dutch culture. That's why they risked their dangerous 16...
Wow. So they fled England to run away from religious persecution to a more tolerant place, which was Holland. Did he say Holland? Yeah, I'm assuming Holland. I think he said Holland. But the culture there was very materialistic, and they didn't want their children to be corrupted and seduced by that. So they wanted to give them a simpler life with more morality. So they fled to the New World. That's incredible. Wow.
20 voyage to a wilderness continent, not because they were running from oppression, but because they were running toward holiness, fulfilling a fateful mission to build an ideal Christian commonwealth.
That's a nice idea. Good for them.
And to plant this model society on the wild, wolf-infested island known to natives as Manhattan. But winds and tides blew them 250 miles off course, dumping the Mayflower on the frozen coast of Massachusetts.
Plymouth Rock.
Somehow, The Pilgrims saw their dire situation as a demonstration of providential power.
Okay.
Especially after a giant wave picked up the flimsy boat of a scouting party on a stormy December night. The turbulent sea then deposited them safely, miraculously, on a little island within sight of the ideal location for their settlement.
Wow.
It was a deserted Indian village with cleared land, stored supplies of corn, and a reliable source of fresh water.
Yeah, as far as I understand, they had the Native Americans that were living there had suffered some kind of pandemic disease that had killed a lot of them off. So some fled and some survived. There is a guy in the story, I can't remember what his name is. He was taken to Europe because of and he spoke English and he came back. He was the only survivor of that tribe. And supposedly there were dead bodies in this camp. The entire sort of the camp, or what would you call it, tribe, had either fled or died, which is of course very unfortunate, but that was nothing to do with the Europeans.
No, these supposedly cruel conquerors never actually invaded that village. Instead, they expressed a fervent desire to pay the natives for the dried corn they found.
Oh, wow.
If only they could find someone to pay. But the former inhabitants had perished during 3 years of plague,
Yeah.
probably smallpox, that immediately preceded the Pilgrims' arrival. One of the few survivors of that
Did you hear that? They died from smallpox prior to the arrival of the Pilgrims, not after. Which means, you know, that says everything.
station turned up several months later to welcome the English newcomers. Against all odds, he proved to be the single human being on the continent best suited to help the struggling settlers.
He spoke English.
Since he spoke English and had already embraced Christianity.
It was broken English though, as far as I understand it was broken English. There was another guy that came afterwards that spoke fluent English. This guy's English was broken, so there was some language barrier, but he was a Christian, and that was very, very important to the settlers.
His name was Squanto, and he had grown up in this very village before a ruthless sea captain kidnapped him as a boy and sold him into slavery in Spain.
Okay.
After 4 years, he was freed by kindly monks, then made his way to England, and finally sailed across the Atlantic, only to find his friends and family all wiped out by disease.
That's very sad.
Over the next few months, Squanto helped the English newcomers plant crops.
Imagine the euphoria you would feel being on that ship from England bound to your native land, and you're excited to see your I don't know, cousins, family, friends, your tribe's people, and when you get there, it's decimated. There's nobody there. It's been killed by infection, disease. That would be heartbreaking, because you essentially leave. You essentially make that whole trip, that voyage, all the way across the Atlantic with that excitement. And actually, once you get there, there's actually nobody there for you. It's a horrible, sinking feeling.
And negotiate a friendly trade agreement with the region's most important chief, Massasoit. No wonder Pilgrim leader William Bradford called Squanto a special instrument sent of God.
Wow.
For their good.
Wow.
The celebration, later known as the First Thanksgiving, actually involved a 3-day harvest festival in October, apparently inspired by the biblical holiday of Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles. 90 hungry Indian warriors joined the 53 surviving pilgrims for this occasion. Nearly half of the colonists had died during the brutal winter.
Yeah.
The Englishmen...
And a lot of them, about 20 or 30, didn't make it because they were still stuck in the UK. Or in England, trying to fix, in Portsmouth, I think, trying to fix ship. They never made it over.
Provided some vegetables, fish, and perhaps wild turkeys, while the natives brought 5 recently hunted deer as house gifts.
That's amazing.
The preferred sport on this occasion wasn't football, but shooting, with settlers and Indians sharing a fierce fascination with guns. Though these hardy pilgrims loom large in the American imagination, they never built their Plymouth settlement into a major colony.
No.
In nearby Boston, the later colony of Massachusetts Bay grew so much faster that it swallowed up the great-grandchildren of the Pilgrims in 1691.
Okay.
But the sense of purpose of the original Pilgrims left a permanent imprint on the national character.
Yeah.
They maintained unshakable confidence that God protected them, not to grant special privileges, but to impose special responsibilities.
I like that.
They saw themselves as instruments, not authors, of a mysterious master plan. Today,
And despite that, they really did become authors of a mysterious master plan. Not to say that God was not the author, of course he was, but without their desire to seek God further and to run from persecution in England to the Netherlands, and then from obviously Central Europe or Northern Europe now, they would go to North America to flee materialism and corruption of the mind and morals. They, by those actions, created the most powerful, were the beginnings, the very beginnings of the most powerful nation in the world.
with our continued blessings so obvious and so overwhelming, the only reason to treat this beloved national holiday as a time of mourning is that some foolish Americans actually think that's a good idea. The Pilgrims knew better. They understood that people of every culture and every era can gain more from gratitude than from guilt.
Wow.
I'm Michael Medved for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To ensure that millions of people watch this and other Prager U videos, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
There you are, see? I was totally right. They were agreeing with what actually happened. This guy who's talking seems to be very down to earth, he seems to be Christian. Of course, not just by heritage, but also by genuine religion. I really like the way he talks. He speaks very eloquently, and the information he gives is great. I think, of course, in my opinion, it's not opinion, it's fact, it's accurate. And that just solidifies in my idea that, of course, Thanksgiving, of course, is a great holiday, one that really represents what the United States is all about. Because for centuries up until this very moment, people fled religious persecution, poverty, and even security in some circumstances to come to the United States, and to have that lack of security, but also higher opportunity to build a better life for their families. That was very, very true of the Irish who emigrated to the United States during the potato famine, and then so on after, with so much of Boston and New York being of Irish heritage. In fact, the Irish played parts in both sides of the American Civil War. McClellan was the commander was the general in charge of the Union Army for a short while before replaced by, oh my God, Ulysses S. Grant. He wasn't very effective, McClellan anyway, but he was loved because he was Irish, and there were a lot of Irish volunteers who would fight to gain citizenship, which is very interesting. But yeah, that's my take on it. Yes, so immigration into the United States is common all throughout history. In fact, there is evidence to suggest that Native Americans have not been there for the entirety of time or human existence. They've only been there between 8,000 and 10,000 years. Having come from the north down into the North American continent. So yes, it's not colonization, it was just simply fleeing and looking for a better life, and not fleeing, but looking for a better life, being closer to God. And they treated and I know the story, they were attacked when they initially got to the United States, but the rest of the time they found this tribe, this Native American tribe. They got on, they looked after each other, and they did not give them smallpox. The smallpox actually killed off that settlement prior to their arrival, and I knew that for a fact before watching this video anyway. But yes, guys, thank you very much. That's really, really eye-opening, absolutely amazing. So thank you very much for your recommendation. Whoever recommended the first Thanksgiving video, Now this is the second one that I've done of my own accord to learn a tiny bit more about Thanksgiving, because it's something that I've never celebrated, even though I have family who celebrate it, of course. Now I understand why it's such an important holiday, and why actually genuinely should be celebrated, and it is an integral part of the American psyche and culture. So yeah, that's absolutely great. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget you can subscribe, and all the links to my other social channels, including Patreon, where you can find more exclusive content that you won't find on YouTube, is down below in the description. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the content, and give some comments and feedback wherever you feel free. It actually really helps the channel when you give comments and feedback. And you guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for watching. I got a comment on a previous video that I wasn't commenting enough on the videos that I'm watching. I'm trying not to pause them so you can actually watch the video with me, but I understand that actually for it to create a new content and not be infringement of copyright, I have to stop it every now and again in some circumstances. So thank you very much for your support and your patience. You are absolutely amazing. Have a great day.